Jesus, this is not the voice you're expecting, this is someone else. So how you guys doing? This is Red Gamut, and we're doing a bonus playthrough here on the old BSC, which means I brought Lewis and my boy Nairman along to help me out and give you this extra content. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're the guest characters this time. Hi.
On our own
guest
channel.
Characters on your own channel, yes. Lucky you.
So now, we haven't actually done a Mortal Kombat game on the channel before.
And why is that?
Probably because when it came to fighting game story modes, we were a bit more focused on the Injustice games because we have more to say about that character-wise.
Yeah.
The other being, a lot of the experience a lot of us have with Mortal Kombat, at least as far as I know for me and Johnny, are the much older games, which either don't have story modes, or the less we talk about the Sub-Zero game, the better.
I've never played that.
Now, I have to appreciate that this story mode starts off pretty much exactly where Mortal Kombat 10's story ended, which was with Raiden going all edgelord after beating Shinnok. But then they immediately, literally erased that version of Raiden from time. So,
Spoilers.
In the first part.
In the first part, yes.
It's interesting, and it kind of highlights something that I always found a bit weird about Mortal Kombat, especially in the more recent games where story became a thing. It's because the gameplay is still heavily into the whole blood and guts and fatalities thing, but most of the cast that you would want to play as, the characters that are generally the good guys, with like the possible exception of the Lin Kuei, don't really have the personality you would need to actually do the fatality thing. So I just find that an interesting little story gameplay segregation thing. But yeah, for now we have Evil Red Lightning Raiden.
We do. You can tell he's bad because he has red lightning.
Negative Karma Infamous Raiden, let's say.
That's it. He went the full renegade route in Mass Effect.
Yeah, probably. Oh, he's even got the Omni Blade. That's good. Yes.
He does. That's true.
I like how, like, Shinnok is an Elder God, so you can't kill him. Yeah, but I can cut his head off above his vocal cords and make it so that he can't do anything for the rest of his eternal life.
And just stick it on a wall because, you gotta coordinate.
He said
How to use it as a flashlight.
he takes the head and sends it to his followers, and his followers set him up in, like, a chapel and pray to his, like, choking, eternally tormented head. It's creepy.
The funny thing about it is this: you guys probably know the name of the guy who does the voice of Raiden, but I cannot think of Raiden. I can't watch this without thinking of Bato from Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex.
Richard Epcar.
Okay, I'll take your word for that.
He's also Joker in the Injustice games.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the time travel storyline is rock stupid. I'm going to say that right up front.
When are they not stupid?
But I really like Chronica, so it balances out.
I'm gonna jump in here and show off my voice actor knowledge. I'm pretty sure Chronica is Jennifer Hale.
Might be.
That would not surprise me.
I mean, her voice is a bit distorted, so I couldn't tell, but it might be Jennifer Hale. Yeah, I can hear it.
I'm gonna Google it while we're doing this.
But
Although it has been a while since I've heard her in anything. I'm sure she's been active, I just haven't been looking. Mortal Kombat 1T1.
So anyway, after
I'm glad we've gotten past the point where adding numbers to things is okay now, instead of just like, anything after 3 just looks silly, so we're just not going to do it.
now,
we're just gonna have Final Battle XL.
I like how
Whatever.
Mortal Kombat 9 is just Mortal Kombat. So
Yeah.
the Sonic the Hedgehog of the franchise.
yeah, pretty much.
Here's the part that I find really confusing. Aside from I'm just gonna warn everyone watching this that Ronda Rousey is voicing Sonya and it is fuck awful. And so just be prepared for that throughout the entire playthrough.
It's almost like she can't act because she's not an actress.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Okay,
but also,
to be fair, she's done better than a fair number of non-actors that I've heard voicing games. By which I mean she doesn't make me want to cringe away from my television whenever I hear her on screen. But yeah, it's unfortunate too because I really like playing as Sonya Blade in this one. More specifically, I like playing as her younger version.
This is the part that perplexes me though, is that it's a time travel story and you have like the older versions encountering the younger versions, but the younger version of Sonya Blade looks identical to the older version of Sonya Blade. Like, they look the same age.
Yeah, that's not uncommon where, female characters in video games, especially since they don't have to be portrayed by human beings who actually age, tends to look eternally young because that's visually appealing. It would have been, nice if they'd given the older version, a few token facial wrinkles to acknowledge the fact that 20 years have passed between the two incarnations.
Yeah, you would think so.
I'm not exaggerating. There's a 20-year time skip at the beginning of MK10, so yeah.
Yeah, it's just perplexing. I wonder if it's part of the. This game coupled a lot of flack during development for being very, very woke, very SJW friendly, things like that.
That's something that people have been whining about since MK10 because they went with the whole futuristic next generation angle. So you had a more mature version of Johnny Cage, you had a less overly revealing version of Sonya Blade. Although I will point out that the actually revealing version of Sonya Blade was something added to Mortal Kombat 9 rather than something that was necessarily loyal to what she was portrayed as before. But, it's a thing that people complained about because whenever this stuff happens, they complain about it. The world moved on.
It's the internet, and that's what they do.
Yeah, MK10 was a great game, well, a good game at least, with a decent story, and, the Mortal Kombat gameplay that we like.
And a shit ton of horror icons for some reason.
And
yeah,
nice.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, you see, that was
excuse me in this training exercise where I shoot you in the knees.
Yeah, so I do try to show off every character's fatal blow when I get the chance to. I was going to point out that this is me playing this, and even though while I am, I suppose, the de facto fighting game expert person for some of these playthroughs, I don't know how to play Mortal Kombat for shit, so don't expect anything like high-level stuff in these matches.
Oh, so it's the same here. I can enjoy playing them with people. They are probably the fighting game style I am the least good at.
Yeah, having a block button really throws me off.
Yeah, the block button throws me off too. Like I'm used to in 2D fighters you blocking automatically when you're holding backward at the very least. I mean, why would you ever not want to block if you're moving backward? I don't understand. But yeah, they have the block button on R2 of all things, so it's a bit rough to get used to because it's like every other fighting game that I know of has some form of automatic block. Like Tekken, you'll block automatically when you're standing still. Street Fighter 2 and all the millions and billions of 2D fighters based off of it other than Mortal Kombat, you block when you're moving backward. I think the only other game I can think of that has a block button is Dead or Alive, but I think that game might also have you automatically block when you're moving backward without making any attacks. I think
Soul Calibur.
No.
Yeah, that too.
No, Dead or Alive is hold back guard. I can tell you that for a fact.
But by default, the block button in DOA is on the face buttons, so and it's also the hold button, so you're going to be using that a lot.
No, you definitely block by holding back in Dead or Alive. It's not, you have your throw and your hold button. The hold button is for counters.
Yeah, but it's also a block button. If you use it without using any because you push the hold / block button, it also cancels your inputs, so it's multi-use.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. I've never used it for that. I just used the hold back.
Yeah.
So I was right about Jennifer Hale. She is Kronika, and Steve Bloom, which you probably realize is Sub-Zero as well. Just throwing that in there while we're here. And Troy Baker is Aaron Black, which I did not know. So there you go.
And you got Ronda Rousey, the amateur, surrounded by all this star power.
That's
Yeah.
right.
It's
All these titans of voice acting.
yeah. Who voiced Sonya Blade before this?
I don't know. Let me. I can look that up though. Give me a second.
It's like, I understand if they were going to get a celebrity voice actor to do a character, I understand why they picked a fighter for a fighting game. There's some crossover there, but
It was Trisha Helfer.
It's not a name I
do not
immediately
know who she is.
recognize.
Jennifer Hale was Tanya in Mortal Kombat 10.
We're not ready for another war.
huh.
We've got to take out NetherRealm's army now. Before
Now,
Kang can bring
I like the way this story opens before the time travel shenanigans get going, because it does something interesting. Like, okay, Cassie Cage was for all intents and purposes the protagonist of Mortal Kombat 10. So at the end of that, she basically saves the world by kicking Shinnok's ass, right? So well, it's 2 years in the future from there, but right off, as far as we're concerned, right off that triumphant ending, she loses her mother in this mission and has to leave her behind. And then 2 minutes after that, young Sonya Blade and the other young generation characters, this might as well be Mortal Kombat Generations, by the way, it pops up right in front of her face. So she has to deal with the usual weirdness of time travel, generational crossovers, having freshly lost her mother 2 seconds before it happened.
On the bright side, we did literally just walk into Mordor.
Yeah, pretty much.
That is very true, yes. And also, it is kind of weird because you will see this coming up very shortly that, they do address Cassie Cage dealing with her mother's death a bit, which is, obviously fine. Whereas Johnny Cage is actually completely cool with it and does not express the slightest bit of, remorse or surprise or anything when things get weird and time-traveling Sonya shows up. She's just like, oh, hey, your mom's back.
He kind of has this moment where he talks to the younger Sonya as if she's the older version, and she has to remind him that she's not. And he's like, easy to forget. It's like he's good at keeping the emotions from showing too terribly.
Yeah.
But
Then Dick Punch.
yeah, unfortunately, most of Johnny Cage's scenes are him interacting with his younger self, which is charming because you get to see this older, more mature Johnny Cage, who can still crack a quip every now and then, dealing with his younger self, who is basically a 25-year-old, 14-year-old. So,
dude, Johnny Cage has some of the best intro dialogue in this game. If you get Johnny Cage and Garrus to fight, just like in a normal match, they will literally do the scene from Blade Runner where Garrus will go, I've seen things you wouldn't believe, and it's attack ships blowing up off the rim of Titan, and Garrus goes, time to die.
So, yeah, one of the things that I really like about Mortal Kombat, the modern games rather, is that there's a million billion goddamn dialogue sequences for the start and end of fights. Not the end of fights. The end of fight is either a fatality or one victory.
NetherRealm has been very good about this basically since Injustice 1.
Yeah, Injustice has a lot of the same thing going on, but is really pronounced in Mortal Kombat. You can look up just montage videos of all the different dialogues between characters for the start of fights. There's a ridiculous number of them. And you're right, Johnny Cage has a lot of the best ones. Cassie Cage comes in a close second, I think. But
yeah, I agree too. And also I do think you're right that this is one the intro dialogues are one of the best things that NetherRealm have ever decided to do in terms of fighting games. They've made some questionable decisions like clashes and combo breakers and things like that, which I don't agree with, but intro dialogues should be something that every game does.
Yeah, and it's not just most fighting games will stop at having 3 or 4 maybe stock dialogues for each character, to which the other character doesn't respond. But in Mortal Kombat, every character has a beginning of fight dialogue, has multiple beginning of fight dialogues for every other character, and they have their responses. So, yeah, there's always something new to hear.
Yeah, it's really great. I really get upset when people, especially when a game first comes out, and they just skip the intro dialogues. It's what are you doing? This is the best part of the whole fight.
Yeah, I can understand skipping the intro dialogue in Dead or Alive or Street Fighter or something, because, you've heard it a million times. But
exactly
in Mortal Kombat, you know, it would probably, just playing normally, it would probably take you a couple months to hear all the dialogues. So, because there's, it's like, okay, whichever, any given matchup, one character versus another character has maybe 3-4 dialogues from your character and 3-4 dialogues from the other character, with your character responding. That's just from any single combination of two characters. So the moment you fight another character, you have another 8 dialogues or so. The moment you fight another character, that's another 8 dialogues. There's way too many.
Yeah, and also just getting all these, I'm really just like, I sort of like thought that when I'm doing these fights, I should at least try to play them a little bit competently, so I'm actually just going through here and just doing like some combo checks and whatnot. Yeah. So this happens at the start of most fights, and just like for a few seconds, so apologies for that, but yeah.
I see you as well use the alternate inputs that are made to make it feel more like a Street Fighter game. Yeah.
I can do so. I don't mind the back forwards and the down ups, but when it has like back down inputs and stuff like that, I'm kind of like, no, that feels too awkward.
It's easier to just do a quarter circle at that point. So I prefer the I prefer the alternate inputs, and I've been using the alternate inputs basically since. Did they have them in Injustice? I think they had them in Injustice.
I think Injustice 1 was the first one to do it. Yeah, I think that was where they came in.
Yeah. It's good that they give you the option, because a lot of Mortal Kombat players are going to be used to Mortal Kombat inputs, but a lot of other people are coming into the series from Street Fighter or BlazBlue or some other 2D fighter, or even 3D fighters occasionally. I mean, people don't seem to like those as much, but... So, giving something more familiar to work with is good.
I agree wholeheartedly, and there's really some stuff that NetherRealm do very well. In terms of like fighting games, people who play fighting games who are listening to this on a more serious level will probably understand this. Is that NetherRealm games have an option, and you would have seen it in the options there, a thing called release check. And you might know what this is, Lewis, I'm not sure, but basically, release check is when, if you push a button in a fighting game, it counts as an input when you press it down, obviously, but when you let it go, it also counts as an input. And so that can mess up your combos. Right. It's basically negative edge.
Yeah.
And
so that it's a timing thing, right?
Yeah, it is a timing thing, and it can really mess up your combos. And in Capcom fighting games, like, negative edge is a fucking problem. And NetherRealm have the option to turn it off in their fighting games, and Capcom won't do it, and that drives me up the goddamn wall.
Yeah, I get you.
As many options as possible is always good in these sorts of more highly competitive games.
There are a lot of options in this game. For example, you can go into your move list and pin a move, any move, and it will just hover on your screen reminding you of the input so that you can practice it while you're playing. Or you can just pin a fatality that you plan to use so that you don't forget how to use it.
You don't have to pause right before the final hit to remember what the fatality was.
Yeah, which is what I always end up doing.